I think I may actually be live on Instagram and Facebook at the same time. If you watched my last one where I was constantly adjusting the masking tape, well, so did one of my beautiful children. And so what one of my beautiful children did immediately following my last live broadcast was buy me a tripod. So the tablet is on a tripod, but it also has another arm. And so I've got the phone on the little sticky outy tripod. So I'm pretty sure I'm Facebook and Instagram at the same time. So a huge shout out to my beautiful child who bought me the tripod. So here I am, and I'm standing up, so I won't keep shuffling around in my chair, hopefully. I do wish I'd thought to tidy the room first, but I've got it up at a bit of an angle, so hopefully you can't see all the clutter around me, which does not reflect my beautiful, uncluttered mind. So, taking up from where we left off last time, where I was talking about different ways to choreograph your entrance and exit to the ceremony space. Today I want to talk about the stagecraft, or the choreography, of parts of the ceremony itself. One of the first questions that couples ask me when we start to actually plan this, if we're having a rehearsal or at our final planning meeting, is, what side do I have to stand? Now this is really interesting because Mum, if she's over 50, Nana definitely will tell you, oh, the bride stands on the left. And I bet they have no idea why. Okay, so hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago, because a lot of wedding traditions are like hundreds, if not thousands of years old. Hundreds of years ago, weddings were very, very seldom about love. They were about politics and property. And trends, of course, were usually set by the rich people, as they are today. So, you weren't in a lovely outside space with a beautiful floral arbour, you were in a church. And the bride and groom didn't stand holding hands or facing their friends and family. They stood there with their backs to the congregation facing the priest. Part of the wedding ceremony was that the bride and groom had to join hands. So the bride always had to be on the left so that the groom could have his right hand on the hilt of his sword, ready to draw that sword and fight off anybody that might have come to try and stop the marriage for political or property reasons. I'm kind of guessing that that's probably not going to happen to you. So the bride does not have to stand on the left. When couples ask me, I usually say to them, what side of the bed do you sleep on? And I think that's as good a way as any to make that decision for a couple of reasons. So imagine that the bed head is behind you. Get on the side of the bed that you would normally sleep, because facing each other is going to feel more natural. And when it comes to the kiss, it will be less awkward and feel much more comfortable physically for you if you're doing it from the side you normally do. So that's what I tell people. What side of the bed do you sleep on? And we make the decision that way. Where do your attendants stand? Now, you've all got the mental picture of boy, girl, girls, boys. And that's nice, particularly if you have a larger wedding party. But there's something else you can do depending on where you are. And I'll get back to arbors. If you're getting married somewhere where you're actually on a bit of a slope, and I've done this, you can have your attendants arc around behind you and form the archway even. I've got a thing about arbours, because everybody's got a thing about arbours, so apologies to the people I know that style weddings, because you do some beautiful work. But my theory is, if you're on the beach or on the top of a cliff or in a beautiful park and behind you you've got rainforest or the ocean or some magnificent view of the mountains, why are you going to put something in the way of that view? Personally, and this is just a personally, I think your photos are going to look way nicer if they can see rolling hills or ocean in the background rather than an archway of artificial flowers. But that's just me. If you don't have an arbour, we have a lot more scope for where people can stand. Now, I'm not saying don't hire chairs or a signing table, but maybe have a static pillar decoration rather than an archway that's going to dominate the landscape. Flowers. Now, this is important to think about, particularly if you don't have attendance. And there has been a trend lately of weddings that I've done for people not to have a long stream of attendance at their wedding. The bride's going to carry flowers. She carries flowers because at the same time where the groom had to put his hand on his sword hilt, she only bathed once a year. So brides carried flowers to mask their BO. I'm guessing you've probably got like a Nivea roll-on in your handbag. So you don't... And apologies to the florists, and there are lots of wonderful places to use florals in a wedding. But you're going to carry this bouquet of flowers, and then you're going to put it down. And you're not going to pick it up again until after we've done the signing, because you're going to be holding hands with your partner, you're going to be exchanging rings with your partner, you're going to be holding cards to read your vows with your partner. So normally the flowers get passed off to the bridesmaid pretty much as soon as the bride gets up the front, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you don't have a bridesmaid or an attendant that can take your flowers, it's possibly not a good idea to carry them. Just a thought. The other thing we can do, if you're not having a bridal party, a group of attendants with you up the front, we can actually locate the signing table closer. So you can, when you get there, put the signing table down, put the flowers on the signing table. Now my phone's got a flashy, not so much battery left. That's okay. We might drop out of Facebook. I can live with that. So you might put your flowers on the signing table if we've got it close enough. Before I move on to signing tables per se, I have this really great idea, and it's not mine. It was suggested to me by a bride last year. They did it. It was wonderful. So, you know, if you've been walked in by your dad or an uncle or somebody else that's your mum, both your parents, somebody that's important to you, it can get all a bit crowded and squishy and awkward up the front where where's the bride going to stand? Where are we going to go? Oh, look, our seats are back there. Okay, this worked brilliantly because it combined the handover with a first look. So, what we did, bride came in with dad. While that was happening, I had the groom with his back to everybody. So I've got groom's eyes on me. Do not turn around. We've worded up the photographer. He is in position. So bride and escort get about halfway up the aisle, 2 or 3 rows from the front, and stop. At which point, photographer's ready. I turn the groom around and he has the first look, which is photographed. And we can pause for a couple of shots, because sometimes they tear up, bless their hearts. Then, groom walks down, meets them, shakes hands with dad, takes bride on his arm, walks her the rest of the way, while dad can follow and slip neatly into his aisle seat that we've reserved for him. It was brilliant. So, thank you to Sarah. I'm suggesting that quite a lot now. Where do I stand? I move around. My style is a little bit different to other celebrants I've seen in action, because really I'm not anchored to one point. What I do is I will set up this lovely little antique wooden lecturny thing that I've got, which I think may in one incarnation have been a music stand, by the way. I set that up well off to the side of where you guys are. And I will do all my welcoming and introductory and all that stuff from over there. Tell your story if we're telling a story. And you will find all eyes on you. Nobody needs to watch me. You can make eye contact with your partner, with your friends and family that are sitting there. I'm telling the story, and because it's about you, people are going to be watching you. One of my favourite photos I've got of a wedding that I've done is I'm not even in it. And while I'm telling the story, and everybody is just beeline focused on this gorgeous young couple who are getting married, whose story I'm telling. But then later on, I'm going to move around. There are times in the ceremony where maybe we want to talk to your parents. Maybe we've skipped a giving away sort of thing and we're going to thank them as some other part of the ceremony. I'm going to sidle up next to them. I'm headset wired. May get them to stand up, may not. But at other times in the that's the phone dying, so we're no longer live on Facebook. I love tech. So there are times in the ceremony where one of the legal things I have to say to you is, before you are married in my presence, and in the presence of these witnesses, I am to remind you of the solemn and binding nature of the relationship into which you are about to enter. Marriage, according to law in Australia, is the union of two people voluntarily entered into for life. And I'm going to come and say that to you, okay? That's intimate, that's personal, that's something in my official capacity that I have to impart to you. And I'm going to walk up the centre of the aisle and I'm going to come up to you and I'm going to say it. And I'm standing in front of you. I'm 4'10". Nobody can't see. I'm in the aisle space and I'm not there for very long in any case. I will say that bit, and that usually then leads up to the vows, at which time I will probably give one or both of you a vow card and a microphone to do your personal vows. If you're not doing personal vows, we'll say there'll be something else. There'll be like an asking or something. That's it for another day, the actual ceremony structure. But there are times when I will come in behind you. I'm not going to be in the shot if you're reading personal vows from a card with a microphone. I'm back over in my corner, out of the way. If you're doing this on your own, this is your show. If you're doing anything, repeat after me. Another advantage of being a fat midget is that I will take the microphone. I should have got one out. This is remiss. Anyway, we have deodorant. I will stand behind you to the side, right? I've got the repeaty stuff, and this is probably what will happen when we do your wedding rings, if nothing else. And I'm going to hold, and it literally will be above my head. I will hold the microphone for you to speak into. You will be standing there, and nobody will see me. Oh, I've turned my headset off, so I'm not mic'd. They're barely going to hear me because I'll be whispering to you and you'll be speaking into a microphone. I've got lots of photos of couples doing ring exchanges where you can't see me, but I know I'm there. And when, of course, then when we get to special bits, like where I actually declare you to be husband and wife, I'm going to be back over the side again. Or maybe at the back of the congregation. But I'm not going to be in the shot. What is really sad, oh gosh, did I say this last time? Anyway, what is really sad is the number of photographers that ask me at the start, or when I first meet them, is, will you get out of the way for the photo of the kiss? Yeah, dude, I'm not going to be anywhere near that kissing photo. Signing table. Oh, rings come first. Just a quickie. Wedding rings are another thing that are thousands of years old. The ancient Egyptians first started wearing wedding rings. So if you're going to do it, this is something you can practice at home along with walking in time to the music, please, is placement of how you're going to, like you're going to stick your hand out. Ah, there we go. You're going to stick your hand out for your partner to put the ring on. Tilt it towards the audience so that they can actually see, and the photographer can actually see, the ring going on your finger. Very good idea to practice at home, and be aware that on the day, almost nobody can get the ring all the way on. It's either hot, or you're sweaty, or a myriad of, you're nervous, one of you might be shaking. Don't worry if the ring doesn't go all the way on. Just get it as far as you can. She ain't going to drop it. And it'll still look great. That's one of those places where we will have a little hiatus. A few different places in the ceremony, I like to just have a wee pause, because some really good photo opportunities it's a shame to waste. So make sure people can actually see you putting the ring on. That's really good to practice. The signing table. You don't have to have one. At a pinch, you could rest it on my music stand. I've also seen it rested on the backs of the best man. We do have to sign. As I said earlier, if you don't have any attendance, we can whip that signing table in quite close. And then you've got somewhere to put your flowers or your glasses, whatever. It can be behind you. Even if you have an arbour, we can set, depending on the location, obviously, and how far forward or back you've set the arbour, you can put the signing table behind the arbour. So you have just a little bit of privacy, if you like, while you're doing the signing, because it does take a little while. That's why I would say choose 3 songs. We may not get through all 3 of them, but 5 people have to sign 3 documents each, including me, 15 signatures. It takes a while. And then there's always a bit of faffing with the photographer. It's where I like to stop and get my hero shot, rather than be in, you know, your proper wedding photos, because, you know, they're your wedding photos. So that's something that we can think about too when we're working out the whole... if you're doing a unity ritual, it's nice to have the signing table close and easily viewed by everybody, because if we're doing sand or making a sandwich or whatever you might have chosen to do, it's a good place to do that. Ceremony choreography, I think I may well have exhausted everything I had to say about that. I'm coming on live next week. I think it's in a week's time. I can't remember now whether it's Tuesday or Wednesday, but it'll be, you know, on the tiles. I'm actually going to be talking to a wedding planner, where we're going to talk about venues and at what point in the planning process she likes to be included and what she can offer her clients to make things easy. Because that's primarily one of the things I'm all about, is trying to make this whole journey as effortless. Oh, I forgot to tell you the staircase story when I was talking about where I go and move around. Okay, the one I did where I could not move. This is, I think it's a bit funny. Okay, so this couple were getting married on Brisbane Island. They wanted to get married at the place where they used to go fishing, or still did go fishing almost every weekend. Okay, if you know Brisbane, it's at White Patch, and so it's not on one of the, you know, places where you can book for a wedding. There's a steep wooden staircase with a couple of landings that winds its way down to the water, and the bottom step is like right at the water. There's not a beach, it's just down to the water, throw the line in, right? So they decided they wanted to get married at the bottom of this staircase. Okay. Now, there weren't many attendants. They just had 1 each. But the narrow, steep staircase that was fine, the people who were watching the wedding were up on the cliffs. Or not cliffs, like not high, but, you know, maybe, I don't know, 5 metres or so above where we were. They were on the top, at the top level, all looking down. So the couple of attendants came down and they stayed on one side of the staircase so that the couple could make their way each individually down to the bottom step. Below that bottom step was this little landing about the size of my coffee table, so maybe about 700 by 700. That's where I was. So I'd had to leave the PA halfway up the stairs at a landing that was big enough and just drag the cords down. If I'd taken 1 step backwards, I would have been in the water. So I didn't move around. It was a really cool wedding, and it worked really well because you couldn't see me because I'm 4'10" and I was 2 steps below them. But we even managed to do a hand fasting with all the kids coming and putting a ribbon on each of the... It was a lot of fun. But the point is that your situation where you're getting married is going to make a lot of difference to what we do, how we do it. And we can be as creative or as conventional as you want. Now, I'm so glad I remembered, because I really wanted to tell the Brisbane Island staircase story, because it was my first non-binary wedding. It was my first wedding at the beach. It was my first and only, thus far, wedding on a staircase. My first wedding on Brisbane Island. It was a hoot. So I will look forward to talking to you next week with Kirsty from Tranquil Wedding and Events. Be good, have fun.